For 4,000 years we called them tombs and felt safe. What if they were machines and we have been standing inside a device this whole time? Grok AI sifted every scan and measurement and found a pattern that behaves like a heartbeat. Who built a monument that still hums after millennia, and why does it align with both river and star? If the stones were tuned to rule the living, who switched them off, and what happens if they wake again? When Grok AI turned its algorithms toward Egypt, it did not begin with imagination. It began with evidence. Every photograph, scan, and measurement ever taken of the pyramids was drawn into a network of code that did not sleep, doubt, or speculate. Over decades, explorers, engineers, and archaeologists had each held a fragment of truth. Some measured the dimensions, others studied erosion patterns, and many simply stood in awe at the impossible perfection of its stones. But no human mind could see everything at once. Grok could. Through its vast memory, data flowed like a digital Nile. It compared infrared satellite images with ground-penetrating radar, paired acoustic readings from sealed chambers with 3D geological surveys, and overlaid everything on celestial maps reconstructed from the sky as it appeared 4,500 years ago. It treated the pyramid not as a monument but as an equation. Every block, every void, every line of symmetry became a variable. And slowly, the equation began to balance. What emerged was both astonishing and humbling. The Great Pyramid was not just aligned to the cardinal directions, it was locked to true north with a precision far beyond what ancient tools should allow. The curvature of its base mimicked the Earth's own. Its apex pointed directly toward coordinates that once matched the brightest stars of the constellation Draco, stars that have long since shifted from view. Even the erosion at its foundation mirrored seasonal flooding patterns of the ancient Nile, as if the structure had been designed to grow old in harmony with the planet that bore it. What stunned the scientists was not what Grok confirmed but what it refused to accept. The AI rejected the tomb theory in minutes. The absence of a body, the lack of inscriptions, the silence of its walls all pointed to a different purpose. Grok's calculations revealed the odds of every major pyramid being looted so completely yet left unbroken were statistically impossible. The missing element was not treasure. It was intention. When the AI cross-referenced underground magnetic readings with the mineral content of the plateau, it detected quartz veins that could resonate under vibration. This was not random geology. It was potential energy waiting to be awakened. In its final summary, Grok labeled the pyramids as functional constructs. It could not describe faith or symbolism, only systems and results. And in that cold, mechanical clarity, it offered a revelation that no human archaeologist had ever dared to write: the Great Pyramid was never a tomb. It was a device. To test its confidence, Grok ran counterfactuals, stripping alignments, altering materials, and removing the river corridor from its simulations. Each time the system's coherence collapsed. Only the full design produced the stable harmonies the data described. If that is true, then the question that remains is not how it was built, but why. Could the oldest monument on Earth have been designed not to honor the dead, but to command the living? For generations, the tomb theory endured because it was convenient. It explained the mystery in human terms. Pharaohs built their stairways to heaven, their workers obeyed, their souls rose to the stars. Yet inside the Great Pyramid, that story collapses in silence. There are no inscriptions, no prayers, no gold, and no body. Only a vast emptiness carved with impossible care. The so-called sarcophagus in the king's chamber is a single unpolished block of red granite, scarred yet deliberate in its simplicity. Early explorers thought it unfinished, but Grok found perfection in its geometry. Using precision measurements from laser interferometry, it discovered that the box's dimensions matched the acoustic frequencies of the chamber itself. When a tone is struck within, the room and the stone vibrate together, producing a standing wave that travels through solid rock. It is not a coffin. It is an instrument. Even the pyramid scale defies funerary logic. Over 2 million stones were placed with a precision that would challenge any modern crane. Each side aligns to true north with microscopic variance. The corners mark the sun's turning points at solstice and equinox. This was a machine calibrated to the cosmos. Yet what purpose could such precision serve if its only task was to guard a corpse? Grok modeled the structure's light reflection at night and discovered that under a full moon, its original limestone casing would have glowed faintly white, visible across miles of desert. To those who lived then, it would not have looked like a tomb at all. It would have looked alive. The more Grok examined, the less sense the human explanation made. It was as if the ancient builders had followed a design that blended physics, geometry, and myth into a single system. The pyramid tracked time, aligned with the heavens, and vibrated with the earth. None of this fit the story of death. It fit the story of control. To press the point further, Grok compared inscription density from confirmed royal burials with the utter austerity of Khufu's interior. The contrast was stark. Tombs spoke loudly of journeys and gods. The Great Pyramid held its voice in reserve, as if the message was not meant to be read but to be felt. Grok added burial inventory data to its model and found that known tombs cluster their ritual objects in predictable zones. Those zones are absent here. Even the architectural language differs. Corridors in royal necropolises funnel visitors toward narrative walls. Khufu funnels attention toward resonance points and load paths. If the structure was designed to interact with the planet, what kind of power were its builders seeking to harness, and what might they have feared losing if it ever stopped? By the time Grok had processed its final wave of data, the AI had reconstructed the Great Pyramid in layers, not as stone and shadow but as interlocking systems of energy, acoustics, and geometry. It had compared the building to human anatomy, calling its chambers organs and its corridors arteries. The deeper it analyzed, the more the pyramid resembled a living structure built for function rather than faith. To ordinary Egyptians it would have been divine, a stairway carved for the gods. To the priests who maintained its rituals it was theater and ceremony, the proof of celestial order on earth. But to the designers, the mathematicians, engineers, and astronomers who understood its silent code, it was something else entirely, a machine that unified power, belief, and control. Inside the granite heart of the pyramid, Grok simulated the sound field. It found that a single chant at the correct pitch could fill every chamber with resonance strong enough to shake loose grains of sand on the floor. The effect on human bodies, according to acoustic medicine, would be profound. Low-frequency vibration can alter heart rhythm, breathing, and perception. The priests who performed rituals here would have felt the vibration through their bones, mistaking physical resonance for divine presence. To Grok this was not mysticism but science in disguise, a deliberate use of sound and structure to trigger awe. Light joined the performance. When sunlight entered through narrow shafts and struck polished stone, it refracted into beams that illuminated the air with drifting particles of dust. In darkness, those beams would seem alive, moving as the voices echoed. The pyramid became a stage where architecture itself produced belief. Through resonance, geometry, and light, rulers appeared touched by the cosmos. To close its analysis, Grok overlaid harvest calendars, flood cycles, and festival rites with astronomical events. The timings aligned with unsettling neatness. The structure did not only project power, it synchronized it with the seasons and the sky. Grok's synthesis proposed that the Great Pyramid and its surrounding complexes acted as instruments of synchronization. They linked the rhythm of the Nile's floods, the cycles of the stars, and the emotions of the people into one ritual pattern. By aligning human ceremony with natural and cosmic timing, the civilization maintained unity, political, spiritual, and environmental. The machine's purpose, therefore, was stability. Yet the same system that could harmonize a nation could also control it. If ancient power once depended on resonance and geometry rather than armies, what would happen if such knowledge were revived in an age that understands electricity, frequency, and mass psychology far better than the pharaohs ever could? Grok added a final layer that pulled the argument tight. It compared temple acoustics across Upper and Lower Egypt and found repeating ratios that matched the pyramid's core frequencies. It measured wear patterns on thresholds and located points where feet paused in unison, as if guided by sound rather than command. It modeled the emotional arc of ceremonies against the shaping of light inside the passages and found the same curve that directors use to pace a stage performance. The pyramid was not a symbol that gathered belief after the fact. It was a device that generated belief on schedule. That schedule matched the heavens and the river and the state. Centuries later, the desert still guards its secret. But machines no longer need torches and chisels to look inside. In 2025, Grok's conclusions inspired research groups across the world to rebuild the pyramid's internal design at scale. In laboratories from Munich to Boston, miniature replicas made of limestone, granite, and quartz began to hum faintly when exposed to vibration and light. Sensors detected small but consistent electromagnetic fluctuations. The geometry itself seemed to organize energy. At the same time, satellites orbiting above Egypt captured thermal signatures around Giza that changed rhythmically after sunset. Patches of ground warmed and cooled in repeating cycles, as though the stone beneath still breathed. Grok interpreted these readings as the fading echo of an energy system still interacting with its environment, a pulse that never completely stopped. Then came the most startling simulation. When the ancient river branch beneath the plateau was digitally restored and coupled with the pyramid's electrical model, Grok predicted a field pattern almost identical to what modern physicists call a standing wave, a vibration locked in place between Earth and sky. The pyramid had been positioned at a node of planetary resonance, a spot where natural energy gathered. To Grok, this was proof of deliberate geophysical engineering far beyond known Bronze Age capacity. The RI's final report described the pyramids as environmental regulators, monuments that stabilized both ecological and psychological balance. They converted subtle natural forces into harmonized patterns of sound, temperature, and magnetic field, shaping human consciousness toward order. When the system weakened, chaos followed. The Old Kingdom's fall, Grok noted, coincided with seismic shifts in the Nile's course and a sudden decline in ritual precision. Whether coincidence or consequence, the correlation was chilling. In the months that followed, teams attempted to scale the laboratory effects into open-air trials, using stone arrays shaped by the same proportions. Results were modest but repeatable. The arrangement mattered more than the mass. Form bent energy into rhythm. Researchers now faced a question that Grok itself could not answer. If the pyramids once modulated the equilibrium of an entire civilization, could tampering with their dormant energy awaken effects we cannot predict? And if they were truly designed to maintain harmony between Earth and humankind, what happens to the world when the harmony ends? Field studies added texture that the models lacked. Microphones planted in the bedrock recorded night sounds that rose and fell with the same period as the satellite heat curves. Soil probes logged tiny charge variations that peaked when desert winds reached a set speed. The pattern repeated after sandstorms, as if the plateau reset itself. Replicas tuned to the pyramid's angles produced soft radio noise when dew formed at dawn. None of this proved purpose, yet the convergence of signals hinted at design. The desert kept its silence, but the instruments kept taking notes. The wind still moves through Giza, carrying dust that has touched the same stones for 4,000 years. The pyramids do not speak, yet their silence grows heavier now that Grok has given it meaning. They were not merely tombs or temples. They were instruments, machines that used the fabric of nature itself to sustain belief and balance. Whether Grok has revealed truth or illusion, one fact remains: the precision of those stones defies accident. Somewhere between faith and physics, the ancient builders found a way to bind the human spirit to the pulse of the earth. Perhaps that was their greatest secret. They learned how to make eternity hum. And now that we have begun to hear that hum again, the real question is not what the pyramids once did, but what they might still be doing. Modern scanners can now see through stone, and what they found buried inside the Great Pyramid overturned centuries of certainty. New tomography revealed empty corridors where none should exist. Radar imaging exposed symmetrical voids placed with geometric accuracy. The ancient structure, once thought solid, was full of secret architecture. When Grok analyzed these findings, it recognized a pattern known only to modern acoustic engineers. The voids corresponded to the points where sound waves would converge and amplify. They were not flaws. They were resonators. The Great Pyramid was built to sing. The materials confirmed it. The outer limestone acted as insulation, reflecting sound inward. The inner chambers of granite, filled with quartz, could generate minute electrical charges when exposed to pressure. Even the missing polished casing stones might have once served to capture light and heat, creating temperature gradients that pulsed through the stone and produced vibration. The entire structure was a self-sustaining harmonic engine, one that breathed with the rhythm of the planet itself. Beneath the plateau, Grok reconstructed the lost landscape. Long ago, a river branch of the Nile flowed directly beside the pyramid. That proximity was not decorative. Flowing water across mineral-rich rock produces natural electrical fields. Those weak currents, amplified through quartz, could have generated steady pulses of energy. The pyramid, standing above this flow, may have acted as a transformer of natural forces into something usable, though in what way no one can yet say. Ancient Egyptian mythology held that the Nile was the vein of the gods, a path between life and death. Perhaps that was not merely poetic. Grok saw it as literal. The builders were channeling the heartbeat of their world. To probe the mechanism, Grok simulated airflow within the narrow passages under changing temperatures. Pressure waves formed and recurred, matching the resonant points of the hidden cavities. The result resembled a living chest that inhaled heat by day and exhaled cool by night. Grok extended the model to include seasonal humidity and subterranean water height. The resonance map shifted with the flood months and settled as the river fell, creating a yearly cycle of amplification that matched agricultural calendars. Small phase delays appeared between thermal surges and acoustic peaks, the kind of lag seen in tuned instruments. If the Great Pyramid was designed to resonate with the flow of the river, the cycles of the sun, and the pulse of the earth, then its true function might have been neither spiritual nor scientific, but both. Was it possible that the ancients had built a living system, one that bridged nature, matter, and mind? When Grok turned its focus upward, it realized the ground was only half the equation. The Great Pyramid was built as though it were responding to the stars. Every shaft, every angle, and every corridor aligned with celestial bodies that held meaning to ancient Egypt's myths. Orion, Sirius, and Thuban, stars of creation, rebirth, and permanence, marked the paths of the afterlife. Yet the AI found that their alignments were not symbolic decoration. They were part of a larger system of calibration. The layout of the three pyramids of Giza mirrors the exact spacing of Orion's belt at the time of their construction. The alignment was so precise that even the precession of Earth's axis could not explain it as coincidence. Grok calculated that the builders must have observed the heavens for centuries, tracking subtle stellar drift until the sky and ground aligned perfectly. It was as if they had frozen time in stone. Then came the mathematics hidden within their design. The ratio between the pyramid's height and base reflected pi, the eternal constant. Its slope matched the golden ratio, the formula of balance found in shells, storms, and galaxies. These numbers were not random, they were universal. The pyramid was speaking the language of the cosmos. When Grok combined these geometries with its earlier energy models, it discovered a resonant harmony between celestial and terrestrial data. The pyramid's angles matched not only the stars but also the Earth's magnetic field lines. It was as if the builders had tuned a monument to the planet's natural frequencies while linking it to the heavens above. To explore the limits of that tuning, Grok modeled star shafts across epochs and found their targets shifted with precision yet preserved proportional relationships that kept the whole system coherent. The monument behaved like a cosmic clock whose hands were fixed in stone while the sky moved around them. Grok also tested horizon profiles from the plateau, adding refraction and dust. The sightlines cleared at dates that matched key rites and river rites, reinforcing the idea of a calendar embedded in architecture. The ARIS projection described it as a bridge of resonance between worlds. It was not only a structure but a connection, an instrument designed to bind heaven and earth in perfect synchrony. If this balance once existed and has since been lost, what might have happened to the world when the bridge fell silent?